I recently had a question about monitors, in-ear monitors specifically. So this video is all about headphones for recording and live, and also monitors. I'm going to be talking about live sound in the later half. In the first part, I'll be talking about different kinds of headphones, pros and cons, why you would use one over the other, etc., etc. I've got 3 different types, so that's what we're covering in this video. It's mostly going to be lecture. But as always, if you have any follow-up questions or you'd like me to talk about something specifically, you can see me at patreon.com/Kalani, and I'll be happy to connect with you more over there. So let's get started. So the first pair of headphones I have to talk about are these, which are made by Vic Firth, and these are they're really sold and marketed as drummer headphones. And these have some interesting qualities. One, they're over-ear. So you can see this shape that would completely encompass your ear for those of you that have average size ears or smaller. Also, they're completely sealed. So this is a very hard, like plastic-like material on both sides. There's no volume or adjustments or anything. They're very simply built straight ahead. There's some adjustment here along this way. But they're pretty simple. I've had these a long time. I believe these are still produced. I'm not sure, but you can, check different sources if you're interested in getting these. The pros of these, of course, are that they really seal. They fit tightly, and they seal around your ears. So they're on your head, right? And when I put these on, immediately I feel like I just got put into a small closet and somebody shut the door, and it's this very intimate, covered sound. You don't really hear much coming from the outside, which for a drummer, you're playing a drum set, it's very loud, so that would be a plus. If you want to practice with music, you don't have to crank up the music volume super loud, and that's really the main feature. You guys, you don't want to be blasting music in your ears under any circumstances. Anything over 85 decibels for an extended period of time can cause hearing damage, so let's also make this video about protecting your hearing. So the pros of this is that you can play a louder instrument, and of course that's not exclusive to drums, any louder instrument, and you can protect your hearing, and you can also play along with tracks that you don't have to turn up as loud, right, to hear that kind of balance. I would also, back in the day when I was playing a lot of drum set, I would also just play with these. I'd practice with them. I'd play with them as just as hearing protection. And what it would do for me, especially on drum set, is it would cut down a lot of the higher sounds, the overtones, the ringing, and it would give me a very tight sound of my own playing, my own drum set, and I could still hear the bass, because bass goes through everything. I could still hear the bass player. I could still hear enough of the other musicians to play along well, but I wasn't getting all of the sound, from everything. So for me, it just it was like a natural kind of decibel reducer and EQing a lot of the high sounds out to give me a cleaner mix, if you will. So those are some of the pluses. Some of the cons are they fit kind of tight, so they could become a little uncomfortable over time. You got pressure on your head. They also do block out a lot of things. So if you're playing with other musicians and those musicians are playing sounds, are producing sounds that are more nuanced or more subtle, you may miss out on those sounds and therefore not be able to engage with them and be creative and be sensitive to what's happening around you because you are somewhat, isolated. Another pro, I'm going to skip back for a second, another pro with these is that because they fit tightly and they have this hard shell, is that if you're playing along, as we often do, with a click, in a studio situation, the click sound doesn't leak out and go into the microphones. And with percussion and other instruments, of course, that's a major issue. You want to have something that's isolating the click and letting you hear the click as a musician, but not bleeding out and going into the headphones. And when you have a lot of musicians with headphones on and they're all listening to the same click, that can really become an issue, especially with instruments like strings or some of the softer woodwinds, where the mic has to be a little hotter to pick up the sound, has to be a little more sensitive. Also with ambient percussion, that's an issue. It's not so much an issue with congas or djembes or bongos because the mic is not going to be as sensitive, it's not going to be as hot in that situation. But with shakers, wind chimes, small percussion sounds, it really can become an issue, especially because the mics are often right up near your head. So that's something to consider when you're looking at which kind of monitoring, which kind of headphone situation, or earbuds. We'll talk about the in-ear monitors in a second. But which types of monitoring device you want to use for the project or for the performance, and so these are considerations. All right, let's move on to let's move on to these. And these are just, I got these with an electronic drum set. These are your kind of very cheap, B flat, run-of-the-mill, on-ear. See how they're round? So these are very cushy though. Cushy, pretty open, pretty porous. They fold up. There's some things I like about these. So let's talk about these for a second. So these are on-ear headphones, and of course they fit like this. I can still hear more that's happening in the room because they're very porous. They do not isolate the sound really well. I would probably not use these for either live. I might use them for live, probably not. I would use these for practicing. I might use these for a rehearsal just to cut down a little bit of the sound, allow me to hear whatever I need to hear in my monitor. I like them for practice because they are porous, so you can still hear yourself. And I recommend to my students, when you're practicing and you want to play along with a click or a backing track, that you not cover your ears completely so you can hear yourself. Because if you're not mic'd and that mic is not going back into your ear through the headphones, then you may not have a good idea of what the sound is that you're producing. So either use headphones like these that are sort of, we'll just use the word porous, or you can cheat one of them off your ear or just put one on, one side and leave one open. So these do have a place in the overall scope of music making and practicing, but I would say it's probably not in the recording end of things or in the performance live stage end of things, because these would be better for that. Also the monitor, but we'll talk about that speaker in a second. So right now, let's go to the in-ear monitor, and these are not high-end in-ear monitors, but these are basically their earbud. In-ear monitors are essentially like earbuds on steroids. They're just fancier earbuds. They do have multiple drivers. You can research them, but they're soft. And the idea with these is that they fit. And you guys have seen them if you've been a fan of the channel, which I assume you are, and you still have to untangle them. That's one of the features of these, right? They come pre-tangled every time you put them down, and they retangle. So one of the benefits of these is that they fit snugly into your ears, and once they're in there, because they, unlike earbuds, they usually fit tightly. They seal your ear opening, and they go over and back, and sometimes they even tie together in the back or have a clip for your clothing or something. So they're a bit, they stay in place. I've tried to use regular earbuds, and they tend to fall out, especially if you're playing or moving. So for stage use, you want to be careful. You want to make sure that if you're corded, if you have a long cord, that it's not going to be an issue. You're not going to move it or bump it or step on it and rip the earbuds out. Or if you're wired, that's fine, or wireless, then that's probably fine. But there's all sorts of different systems for live performance and for studio. So for live looping, I really like the earbuds or the in-ear monitors because they're not obtrusive, right? They're small. I can move around, I can do things, and I don't have like this giant thing on my head. Nothing wrong with headphones. You can use them, you know, obviously for recording and live looping, but these get the job done. If you want to have in-ear monitors, then I would recommend getting a set of in-ear monitors and not try to use earbuds. Why? Well, they're different. They have different mechanisms. The in-ear monitors tend to have multiple drivers, so they might have a separate actual driver or mechanism for the bass as opposed to the upper, you know, the highs. They're more adjustable. They sound better. They also could have more protections in place for your ears. They're just more high tech. They can get very expensive. These were not. These I got, they're kind of generic. You know, they're not obviously fitted for me. I just bought them, but you know, they're fine for the money. I feel like these were a good investment. They still have, I mean, this is why you can tell that it's prosumer. It still has a mic on it for a cell phone. So obviously they're not just for performance unless you want to call somebody during your gig. But I don't recommend that. So pros of these is that they're kind of like the over-ear monitors in as much as they tend to block out a lot of the external sounds, and they seal in the musical freshness. Now they seal in things like the click and other sounds that you might not want to have leaking out into the microphones. So they share that characteristic with the headphones. Cons of them is that they also can, if you turn them up loud, they can bleed out if they're very loud. They can move, or if you bump the cord, they could come out. And unlike these, which are probably not going to come completely off your head, if these pop out, it's just not as easy to quickly put them back on. They do take a little more fiddling, you know, because you got to kind of move it over your ear and make sure it's in place. Sometimes these little rubber, the tips that go in your ear actually come off, you know, either stay in your ear or they fall off. So they're just a little more finicky, a little more high maintenance than a pair of headphones. Headphones, quick, easy, you can feel them, you know what's going on. These, you know, if they start getting loose and you're playing, not that easy to always get back in or get back on track in terms of wearing them. But overall, I'm a fan of the in-ear monitors. There are in-ear monitor amps or preamps or mixers that you could have as an individual band member, either for studio or live performance, where it allows you to adjust the volume, maybe the EQ, and maybe even separate things like the click from what you're hearing. So you can research that. This video is more about the actual item itself. But there's lots of variety in the in-ear monitor space where you can even have them custom molded. And if you're really going to invest in a pair, that's probably what you're going to do. I believe these companies can even send you some sort of mold material where you take an impression of your ear and then you send it back, and they make that and they send it back to you, and you've got lots of choices. But they can get into several $100s, I think even several thousand at the high end. So just take that into consideration if you're going to go down that pathway. All right, let's quickly talk about stage monitors. And I do have this small monitor over here. I love these. This is an old monitor. It's a Fostex SPA11. I don't know if they still make them, but I'll show you this really quick. This one has two tiny speakers, as you can see, but it also has a lot of features on the back. It's also very heavy. So it's got separate power. It's got inputs and outputs. It's even got another plug on the back, so you can plug something in. It's got a volume control. So you've got multiple features there. It's even fused. It has a fuse. What I like about this, and what I like about having a speaker as a monitor. Now, of course, we're talking about live here. We're not talking about studio. You're not going to have a speaker in the studio. But a live show situation, what I like about this particular type of monitor is this would be elevated on a stand, and I can put this closer to where I need it. I can put it closer to my head, basically, as opposed to a wedge or a floor monitor. Now, you've all seen the wedge monitors. Those are good if you're going to be moving around in a larger area. And also, of course, they don't block the view. They don't get in people's way, which is one of the main reasons you see them on big stages, just because they're covering a larger area and we don't want to block people's view. As a percussionist or a drum set player, you can, drum set player? You could have, because you're not moving around as much. You're not leaving your spot, hopefully your platform, your 10-foot high platform. Because you're staying in the same place, you could place this, in wherever you want it, close to, just aiming at your head. And therefore, you will hear it better than if it's on the floor, coming up at an angle. Also, because a lot of the time, if you have a wedge on the floor, you've also got things on tables, right? You've got drums, or you've got a table with your hand percussion, and then that's blocking the sound. So you have to turn it up louder, and then all that monitor sound is now going back into the microphones, potentially, or actually to some degree. So as much as you can minimize the volume, the sound that's coming out of your monitor that's going back into the mics, that's going to help the sound man or sound person have a better time, because that's going to reduce feedback. It's going to reduce the amount of kind of muddy noise that's existing in the audio system, and it's going to allow you to better hear what you want to hear. Now, along those lines, let's just talk about, what do you want to hear in your monitor? Well, for me, I want to hear as little as possible that allows me to play along with the other musicians. Why? Because I'm playing stuff myself, so I don't want to hear a lot of other stuff. I just want to hear a reference to what I need to hear. So that could be, for me, it could be here. It could be here. I could be hearing a lot of things. It could be a little bit of a steady sound like a hi-hat, and probably a little bit of kick, like bass drum. You want to feel that. I want to feel the pulse, so I might ask for a little bit of kick, a little bit of hi-hat. I don't need to hear toms and cymbals and stuff. I don't. I'm going to probably hear it anyway, just acoustically. I'll hear it enough. I might want to hear a little bit of bass, of course, but just a little. Bass tends to permeate the entire area, and as long as the drummer's playing with the bass player and I'm playing with the drummer, I'll be playing with the bass player, right? I might want to hear a little bit of vocals just so I can know where we are, what's happening with that. A little bit of guitar, maybe, if I need to hear a cue. But I'm not going to hear much of that. Just mainly maybe some kick, hi-hat. I'm good to go, all right? So you want to communicate these things with the engineer, whether it's a live situation or a studio situation. Learn to manage your monitoring so that you get what you need, but you're not producing any more sound for either the live situation or the studio situation that you need to. In other words, it's not coming out and going back into the microphones. So small personal monitor, I'm a fan. If you have to go with a wedge, just do your best to help the sound person and maybe remove as many sounds as you can and just leave what you absolutely need. I think that will work great for everyone. If there's sound that's being produced acoustically, which there is, in a live situation, maybe you can use headphones, but you could cheat them off a little bit, or even the earbuds or in-ear monitors, you might want to just use one. I mean, there's all sorts of different possibilities and ways you can get the job done. All right, so we've covered headphones, in-ear monitors or earbuds, on-ear, over-ear. We've talked about live monitors, speakers, pros and cons of all of that, and I hope you've learned something in this video. If you have, please like, subscribe, hit the bell. See me at patreon.com/Kalani. If you have questions for me, I appreciate all of your kind and helpful comments. You can leave those below. Help each other out by answering people's questions in the comments if you can. with the relevant response. All right, you guys, this is World Drum Club. I'm Kalani. I'll see you soon. Thanks for watching.